welcome to PPR podcast number 58. If you're saying, well, hold it, how are you guys numbering this?
Everybody's saying that.
Yeah, I apparently math or just counting is not my strong suit, but this is number 58 in a series now that we have one on Mondays as well. We got to count them all together. So this is we've done more, but this is 58 by the book. Use that QR code in the corner of the screen. It'll get you, it'll take you to the pro shop so you can buy cool PPR gear like the stuff that Bert is wearing right now. Bert?
Yes.
Would you like to introduce our guest?
Mr. Doug Brady, owner and operator of Brady Performance.
But that's not how you do it.
Oh, how do you do it? Well, I had that coming up. I got a lot of. But he's got a lot of titles.
He's the quarterback whisperer.
Ah, okay.
That's how you do it. Hey, Doug, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Paul, Bert.
Doug.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
When you hear the phrase quarterback whisperer, do you accept that as the compliment that it's intended?
I understand it's a compliment. I mean, there's a lot of people that are good and could perform, the coaching duties as a quarterback coach, and so I'm thankful to be able to work with kids and to be respected, for my knowledge.
Doug, so I have a question. We did Mount Carmel. You went Mount Carmel RBV last week, and you trained Josh Bell, right?
Yes, sir.
So I guess my question is, great game by the way too for him, but
Absolutely.
how's that relationship work? So you get somebody like Drew Wessling, who's obviously another quarterback guru and offensive coordinator. Do you guys talk, or is it like certain lines you don't step on, or certain things you train with when you have the two of you working with the same guy?
Yeah, well, Drew's a unique situation because I coached Drew at Southwestern College in 2007, and we had great rapport, and we've just carried on that great rapport over the years, and it's just a natural deal. I mean, I get access to what they do on offense, and he knows I'm going to protect that. Just like if I work with a program they're competing against, I'm not going to give info away. So he knows that I have his quarterback's best interest in mind. I want the quarterbacks across the county to throw for a lot of yards, throw for a lot of touchdowns. So selfishly, that's what I want. He knows that's what I want with him. And so we'll talk about certain concepts, and he'll tell me the progression and how the footwork matches that. And so I understand pretty high level what they're trying to accomplish there at Mount Carmel. And so I was able to watch the film of Josh this morning of that, during that game, and saw what he was able to do, and it's good to be able to fill the gap for staffs like that, where he's got a lot of different moving parts, and I could kind of help fill in the gap where a gap exists.
Everybody, you're listening to PPR podcast number 58, brought to you by Renovation Realty. It features the quarterback whisperer, Mr. Doug Brady. Doug, back in the day, I'll take you back to a hot September day, 1978. The Madison Edgewood Crusaders were taking to the field, and the quarterback tryouts went like this. Who can throw the ball the farthest? Yeah. You're the quarterback. Could you talk a little bit about how things have evolved considerably in the last 50 years, and now that's arm strength is just but a fraction of what you have to do as a passer?
I remember that. That was like that when I was playing too.
Right. I mean, it's when you lay eyes on a kid, it's like you pass eyeball test. This kid could throw it a mile. I mean, people have made mistakes basing their evaluation on what a kid could do arm strength wise. Jamarcus Russell, Ryan Leaf. There's a bunch of people that look the part. So to answer your question, it's changed a ton. I mean, there's access to information. Kids could watch videos on the air raid offense or on the West Coast offense or any type of offense, and they're able to learn, from the comfort of their own home. And there's 7-on-7, there's passing league, and so there's so many different skills that these kids possess now. So the evaluation process for me when I was a college coach, and I'd want to understand it. Can he throw accurate? And specifically, can he throw accurate in the red zone? Is he able to put it where it needs to be put? And that doesn't require the strongest arm. That requires anticipation and understanding what the defense is taking away, because they only got 11 players out there and they can't cover all the grass. So, there's a lot of intuition and just understanding what you're doing. So that's more important to me.
When did that? I mean, when do you think? Because I've been doing high school football for a while, and it just seems like in the last 5 or 6 years, maybe. Just watching Josh, I watched some other quarterbacks. These quarterbacks now are actually eluding the rush and still going through their progression, looking downfield, where it used to be first target's covered, I'm running. It's the end of it. And now you see them going for 1, 2, 3 through the progression. Why they're getting rushed but not taking their eyes off downfield? That wasn't like that 5 years ago, was it, or 6 years ago?
I mean, it really
In high
wasn't
school, yeah.
emphasized, right? It wasn't really emphasized before. But again, you have access to what people are doing. I mean, you have all these different shows, Hard Knocks, or you have behind the scenes access, and you can kind of get coaching points. And so people are able to have information. In regard to those quarterbacks performing with their eyes up, Josh has been doing a great job of that. I've been really pleased with his pocket presence and keeping his eyes up and understanding his progression all the way through it. You train with your eyes up. There's different drills that we do that really emphasize the quarterback keeping a good base and then operating within the pocket. And I always use the analogy of driving a vehicle. When you're driving a vehicle, you're not staring at the dang car next to you. You get a feel for the car, and there's different rules of the road. And so there's different rules within the pocket. A defensive structure is going to try to create a box around the quarterback. We also use an analogy kind of like escaping a submarine. You got water in one portion of the submarine. You got to be able to find the escape hatch, right? But keep your eyes up so you don't bang your head on on any iron or anything, yeah. Right? So it's just trying to emphasize that, use teaching tape, and then drill the heck out of it. Because if their eyes are dropping, they're not going to find open guys. They're going to run right into trouble.
Right.
So that's a great observation on your end, and I think it's emphasized.
It's one of the few observations he'll make in this interview. Hey,
I'm a quarterback yeller, by the way.
Doug,
look, I got a nice picture of Bert over here, by the way.
No, let's see it. You got to show it.
Yeah. Pull my hat here. Golly.
Come on, you don't have a picture of me in your wall. Oh, wow.
Right there.
That was an add-on this morning. Come on.
Yeah, man. That's my guy.
Doug, maybe we should just leave that question unasked.
Sorry, I have a question. You guys have your configuration.
Doug, before we get too far into this, because I got 1,000 questions, and we were only going to have a limited amount of time, but could you maybe just go over the timeline of your life a little bit? Give us the timeline of your coaching career, where the whens, and just give us the quick bio so that people can understand that you're not some Johnny-come-lately.
Sure. So I'll go even before that. I played at Poway High. We ran the wing tee. I grew up loving the Buffalo Bills, so I wanted to be part of a team that would spread it out. So I went the junior college route, learned a couple different systems because I changed junior colleges, played at New Mexico State, then finished up at Menlo College. So I was exposed to the West Coast offense, the Coryell system, some other systems as well that are kind of blended together. As far as coaching goes, I worked for Stanford during my last semester in college, so I got access to the quarterback room and took a ton of notes. Coached at Poway High School. My quarterback, Donnie McKillop, threw for 3,500 yards, 28 touchdowns, 1 interception until he went to the championship game.
I know the name.
Donnie was awesome. Yeah, I mean, he was super easy to coach. Yeah. It's like I had that kid, and I felt like I was the smartest coach in the world. Coaches know that if you have good players, you have kids who understand what's going on, you're going to look a lot smarter. Then I coached at Southwestern College in 2007. I coached Drew Westling, who's a Division I quarterback. It's a funny story. The San Diego State coaches came to watch our game versus Riverside. Drew lit it up in the first half. And we were up 28-0. They left at halftime, and we lost 35-28, but they offered a scholarship off of that half. But I have so many stories about Drew. Then I coached at Southeast Missouri State. I coached Houston Lillard, who's Damian Lillard's brother. He'd always tell me about, hey, I got this younger brother who's a baller. I'm like, yeah, he plays at Weber State. I'm sure he's a baller. And then obviously he's had a great career. Still keep in touch with Houston. He trains quarterbacks in the Pacific Northwest. I had a quarterback there also who's the pass efficiency leader in FCS football, Matt Scheibel. He was a coach's son. Again, another example of me having really smart players. He took care of the football. We were in sync with one another. Then fast forward to 2011, Fort Lewis College, 2012, Lindenwood University, Belleville, where I was an admissions counselor, recruiting coordinator. I mopped the floors. I did every stinking job. I learned a ton. Last 5 years of my life, I think, during that time period. And then I was at Central Methodist University for 2 years. I worked under John Haynes, the head coach of Southwest High School in El Centro. Very good friend, been a big influence on my coaching career. Got out of coaching and then sold software. Worked at Westview for 3 years, and we did some good things there. Start off slow first couple of years, but we'd always pick it up towards the end. We'd be roaring in the playoffs and knock off some teams we shouldn't have knocked off. And then I started Brady Performance in 2020. My wife encouraged me to follow my passion. I was waking up in the morning researching construction software and It's like, man, I'm not fired up about this like I am about ball.
Right.
And so now I study ball, and I'm able to get access to kids across the country. I work with guys getting ready for the pros, and down to the youth league quarterbacks. So it's a ton of fun. Sorry, I kind of went 100 miles an hour there.
No, I appreciate it. I just want people to know that you have a pretty impressive clientele that we'll get to in a little bit, but you've been doing this for a little while. This is not your first rodeo, is what I guess I'm trying to establish. Oh, Bert.
Yes. Okay. Well, I was going to ask him that, but you just so it's all. I mean, what's your youngest group that you start training in? How, I mean, for a quarterback, how important do you think it is? Like, what's the date, or the date? Is it 5th grade, 6th grade, 8th grade that you should start training seriously for a quarterback?
I think it comes down to the athlete and the family. Some families they want you to try to make a kid something he's not going to ever be, and that's always a super tough conversation. So my process is, if you contact me through my website or DM me, we get on a call, and I like to talk through, like, hey, here's my expectations. This isn't for everybody. I'm going to love up on the kids, but I'm also going to coach them hard. So the youngest I've gone with is 8. Reluctantly, I went with 8-year-old with that age, but I had that conversation with the dad, and the dad played at Stanford, is had a very successful business career, and he's also sent his son to training for basketball and piano lessons. And so there was a benchmark there set with that particular kid, but I'd say 10 years old, probably 5th grade, is a good start point, because at that time frame, they could start taking some ownership. And even with the older kids, Bert and Paul, the older kids, if you give them stuff to work on, they won't do it. They'll go do other stuff, because it's really not that important to them. The ones that really want to do it, just like in any walk of life, they really want to put effort towards it. They're going to work on it, because I tell parents all the time, the skill acquisition, the growth is not going to happen in a 1-hour session. We're gonna create some good foundation. We're gonna be able to hammer home some things and create affirmation. But it's really gonna happen when they're watching football and they're saying, "Hey, coach, that drill that we did, I saw Pat Mahomes do it in a game." Or, "Hey, that pocket movement drill." And so that's kind of where the light bulb comes on. And they got to want to do it in between sessions and throw the ball and work on the little things. And so it's not just cookie cutter. It's case by case. It's the individual. And I want to get to know the individual first. I don't just take anybody. I want to get to know them. I want them to know me, because I care about every single person I train. It's important to me.
So one follow-up to that. I mean, I don't know if you do or you don't, but I guess, like, being a D lineman, I watch a lot of D linemen at these camps and everything else, and they're not really, that's like the most underserved population as far as training. I mean, I watch kids in pass rush drills, just from their stance and their footwork, have to take 3 or 4 steps just to cross the line of scrimmage. So they'll make a 7-yard race to the quarterback for a sack, a 10-yard race.
Sure.
And no one even says anything or does anything. So do you do other positions or just quarterback?
So I hire out. I have some 1099 coaches that help me with my group sessions. And so when we do group sessions, I want it to be like a college practice. We script it. We have emphasis. I don't want to do a ton of one-on-ones with the O-line, D-line guys. I just don't think you're going to get a bunch of quality reps out of that without pads. Obviously, the kids want to do it, and you need to compete, but it needs to be done with watchful eyes. You can't just – I see some camps where these kids have terrible technique, to your point, Bert. Yeah. They haven't been taught the foundations. They don't have they don't have a point A to point B to C. There's no real progression. And so – the D-line coach for Poway, Brett Williams, has helped me with my group sessions. And Brett's been around pro coaches since he was a kid. I mean, Kyle and Brett at Poway, their dad Bill was a coach's coach. He used to have coaches fly in. I remember sitting in with the D coordinator from the Chiefs, or the special teams coordinator for the Jaguars, and just tackling, talking first step, second step. Time up the second step with your punch. And so I can coach any position on offense. I'm starting to work with kids, that are homeschooled, and, they play youth football, and I'm working with a tight end, and we're just working on PSDB, power swoop, drop bucket. The power step, just getting that right, getting the ankle, in a good position, so you could then, fire off the next step and then be able to strike somebody. And then like the swoop step, and taking them through a progression that I learned from the Williams in regard to teaching. So the teaching needs to happen in the off season, and then you have your base individual drills that you do in season to help the kids get better. I think the O-line, D-line play, I'm going to go hard this off season and offer more, because I want all football across San Diego to get better. And I want to be able to collaborate and help coaching staffs get better. I want to bring in guys that are experts. There's experts around our community, around our county. Ken Wilmishire has worked with me as well. Kenny is one of the most knowledgeable offensive line coaches. And he's a wealth of knowledge. So you have a great observation there, Bert. I have the same one. I mean, O-linemen, they're having trouble handling twists. You know, it's like work the bumps and twist drill. You know, if somebody's coming or somebody's going, somebody's going to be coming, right? Keep your shoulders square. I learned from Ed Carberry, you know, the big three in pass protection. Keep your distance, so make sure you get a good pass set. Keep your shoulders square. Remain balanced. I always remember that as an offensive coordinator, and as you're getting me fired up, man. I'm talking ball. I'm more than just a quarterback coach. I love football. I watch
I'll let
football.
Paul answer your question and throw you off track. Don't worry about that. Go ahead.
Okay, well, listen, we'll get back to this, because I want to know, like, if I showed up, what's the first thing you'd work on with me? But before that, can we just go through some names? Like, does the name Julian Sand mean anything to you?
Absolutely. I actually sit in the box for Carlsbad on Friday nights. So I consult with multiple programs, and they're another program that I consult with. They're right down the street from the house. I have a great relationship with Coach Mack. But Julian is special. He really is a coach on the field. I mean, there's things that Coach will give him a green light at the line of scrimmage. If he sees something, he's able to access it. And he's so smooth, and he treats everybody really well. You know, that's the big thing. People don't, you know, see all the social media and they see how good he is, but he's a quality person.
Dominic Nankill.
I worked the San Diego State camp. Was able to see Dominic. Very athletic kid. He's smooth, not much wasted motion in his throwing motion, and he's a winner. I mean, last year they went on a great run, and they've had some really tough opponents this year. But he's a ball player. He keeps plays alive, and he could throw accurate. I think whatever college gets him is going to be super happy.
Can I throw in a name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
San Diego State quarterback room. What's going on there?
So, you know, Braxton's a transfer, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, Lucas Johnson leaving. The other guy leaving last week. I'm talking about that, not one guy in particular.
Right. So I don't know all the backstory there. Obviously, there's a statement made about, you know, him wanting to move on, and then there's a counter statement from the mother, and so I don't know about any of that. I think Lucas performed well in that bowl game, and he was progressing and getting better within the offense. So it would have been nice to have somebody who had experience leading that room and leading that team. But, you know, things happen. People leave for whatever reason, and I don't know. I don't know the reason why. I think that they have some young guys in that room, and they also have a San Diegan and DJ Ralph, and then obviously Braxton Burmeister. I think Braxton had a good series to end the game last week. He got to just play free and use his legs, and he's a good ball player, man. I mean, when you go to a practice and you see these guys compete and get ready, Coach Heck trains them up, man. And so I'm rooting for them big time. I'm definitely, you know, a homer on this one. I want the San Diego State Aztecs in that quarterback room. I want them to have a ton of success. I believe in Coach Heck. I think they're going to right the ship. And so that's my opinion on that. I don't think you expected me to go that deep into it, but.
Now can I go back to?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
You know, because I think a lot of kids are watching this and they want to hear him talk about like Connor Underhill. What do you see there?
So I've seen a little bit of Connor. I've seen him in 7-on-7 live. He's been training since he was a youngster, and you could see how fluid he moves. He seems that he's like a gunslinger type from what I've seen. I haven't broken down his film like I have others, so I can't really talk about, you know, decision making, you know, play in, play out. But from what I've seen, he's a pretty smooth athlete. He could throw it anywhere.
Just because I have no short-term memory because of multiple concussions, the freshman at San Marcos, everyone's talking about it.
Or Saints.
Crete.
Two of them.
Yeah, both of them. So I'll go San Marcos and Saint.
Well, help
so
me with the names. Help me with the names.
Crete. God, do not want his parents to be mad at me for butchering his name.
You're on with Paul. You don't have to worry about butchering names. Trust me.
So
we'll just send him a T-shirt.
You're on with the maestro.
Crete Makaheli.
Say that again, Paul.
Is this the San Marcos kid?
This is, and I may put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. I don't know, So I don't quote me. We don't want to make the family upset.
You're with the goat of butchering names. You don't have to worry about anything right now.
All right, you made your point.
All right.
So continue. A true freshman. I'll tell you, Texler's like, I get an email from Texler almost every other day about.
Dude, that Tex. First of all, when I got out of college coaching, Tex wanted me to come coach with them. I was still trying to figure out a new career, and man, I wish I would have, because everywhere he goes, they light up the scoreboard. He's a great football mind. He just understands how to attack defenses, right? So yeah, he's in a great system. He's in a quarterback friendly system. He's going to RPO, third level, second level RPO it. So he's going to basically try to find the weak spot in the defense, Paul. He understands how to attack, and Crete's talented. He's been training since he was a youngster as well. And so they always have great receivers there at San Marcos. They've got great talent.
Which is amazing.
There.
Yeah.
They do, because there's great trainers in the area. So there's high school coaches, there's trainers that have all these different backgrounds that have the best interest in the kids in mind, I think, for the most part. And they do a great job working with these kids. And so a lot of kids want to get extra work. The kid from Saints, he was a holdback. He went to school in 8th grade up in Orange County, I believe. He's polished. He's very calm, with his mechanics. He's smooth. He seems like he understands what's going on. I talked to Coach Gladnick about him, and I was at a passing tournament, and we were just kind of sitting in the back watching him, and he's impressive. I know Coach Gladnick's super, super excited about him and having him, for 3 more seasons after this year. So we got some really good freshmen.
And just because it's our game of the week, could you break down the matchup that we're going to have on Friday between, I believe it's Stevens from Cathedral, the transfer that came in, and
KJ Chatham.
KJ Chatham from Lincoln. Have you worked with either? Have you watched either?
I've watched both. I have not worked with either. So there's other quarterback coaches that work with their kids and they have relationships with these kids. But I still see them from afar. Cal, KJ's dad's a great man. I've known him for a number of years. I've definitely offered for KJ to come out, but KJ has weapons around him. He's been trained up. Coach Carter has done a great job with him. I know he's worked with Coach Akili as well. So mechanics-wise, super polished with that. He's got dudes around him, man. That's super helpful for a quarterback. Roderick, I have a great relationship with Roderick. Hand that kid the ball. Shoot, hey, go make it happen for us, right? So he's got a great situation. Stevens, kid from Cathedral, is originally a Del Mar kid. They moved, and then they moved him back. He's got a live arm. He's able to create great torque in his lower half. You kind of see a lot of these kids mimic what they're seeing from the Rodgers of the world. These other quarterbacks that really do a good job of creating power, ground force with their lower half, and then their arms follow right behind it, so they're able to create a ton of torque. Stevens' kid definitely has that. They don't throw the ball a ton there, so from the opportunities he does get, he's from what I've seen, he could spin it. He could throw it anywhere on the field. So it's going to be a good matchup between those two. Obviously, Cathedral's going to always try to pound the rock. They're going to do that, and then Lincoln is so dynamic.
Yeah,
scary.
I have a question.
It's all yours.
So give us a little crystal ball into the future. Is there going to be a Brady Performance 7-on-7 team coming up anytime soon?
Man, Bert, my last year as a college coach, I told myself I do not want to do much 7-on-7. I just feel like the quarterback gets bad habits. Fast forward to now, it's the kids want to play ball year round. I think kids should play whatever sports they want to play. But to answer your question, I'm definitely thinking about it, and I've got some things in the works. I think it's kind of like having 11 balls in flight, trying to juggle 11 balls. I want to make sure I'm I'm wise and stay in my swim lane, for lack of better terms. But it could happen because kids want to do it, and it's a great opportunity for me to also train other elements. I think if I'm gonna do a 7-on-7 team, Bert, I want to make sure the backs have a period of pass protection. We're not just going and step in and not visualizing who we're going to block in a man zone scheme or a full slide scheme. I think they need to still train those things, in my opinion. The quarterback, if I were to do it, at least the quarterback would have to move his feet if he gets his third or fourth progression. So I see kids in 7-on-7, they're just back there comfortable.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen in a game, does it?
No.
It doesn't. And so there's a lot of good things that it does train. You know, DBs can really work on plastering receivers. The quarterback has all day to throw, right? And then the receivers can really work on their routes and the timing with the quarterback. So there's pros and cons. But to answer your question, potentially.
All right, I'm going to ask you one more follow-up question.
Sure.
Yep.
We're at the midseason, and we're all on social media, and there's 87 rankings now that come out every week from local people. And I see some crazy ones. Who are your top 5 right now in San Diego?
Top 5 players or teams?
No, top 5 teams.
Well, you just make it 4 for the Open division.
Yeah, like, all right, exactly.
Top
So
four,
if we ended today and we had to do Open, who would you put in the Open? You don't have to put
Obviously,
any order.
I'm biased because of Carlsbad.
Carlsbad. No order.
Carlsbad's
just give me
definitely going to be in there. Lincoln for sure. Can't go wrong with Cathedral. Cathedral's, I think, is going to be that they play some really tough opponents. And then, man, how can I leave out Helix or Madison?
Or Poway now.
You know, Poway's running the rock. Connor Rath. I mean, Nick Riccaduli's coaching that kid up. And I know that any back that carries the ball there is going to have a freaking attitude. I know that because Nick's working with them. I mean, Nick does a phenomenal job. So I'll have to make a top 5. I think Helix historically is a marquee program in our city. Madison, Coach Jackson has done a great job. I recruited Madison back in 2007 when I was at Southwestern, and that guy has just been consistent as a coach, Coach Jackson. And he's got ball players. That definitely helps. And then Cathedral, I've had to coach against Cathedral. I had to line up my kids at Westview versus Cathedral. That AD was on his way out and scheduled to. It just wasn't even fair. But those would be my top 5. Definitely be my top 5.
Before we let you go, can I ask a couple football questions?
Please.
Because I was participating in a little thing on the internet, and someone said, what would be your play call? You're in the huddle. They show a play, and they say, how would you have called it? And I'm using 1980 Rudy Wing-T terminology,
Nice.
and I had a mouthful of verbiage, and everybody on that thread just started laughing at me, saying, oh, you must be 100 years old.
Was this on Bumble?
No, it was on Twitter. It was on Twitter. So my question is, thanks a lot. The verbiage of the game has changed so that now play calls are much more concise to the point where you can make 2 play calls in the huddle, go to the line of scrimmage, and dump the play you don't want to use. How did that happen? And give me an idea of how it works.
Yeah. So I heard a good coach phrase it up before I answered that. They said, if it's easy to call, it's harder for the players to remember. If it's harder to call, it's easier for the players to remember. Right? What do I mean by that? So if you have a 1-word or 2-word call, then you have to have rote memory there. You have to just remember what your assignment is on that call. And some knucklehead might mess that up. But if you have a longer call, then at least, if it's just 2-jet, that's the linemen, all they care about is that word, right? The backs, that's all they care about, that 1 word, or maybe a tag. So I think the longer calls are still, there's still coaches using them, but they put them on a wristband, or they could signal, and then you could segment your signal. So you could have somebody signal to the O-line, to the receivers, and the quarterback and back, right? So you can do it that way. I think it is wise to limit your play call and have no more than 7 words. Some people believe that's way too many words, and to your point, where they can just do 1-word calls and 2-word calls. During my time, I've been exposed to so many different systems. I've had those long words, but then I was exposed to the spread offense. I worked for Ed Carberry, and we try to simplify the words. And then, going down the road after that, our NASCAR calls, our 1-word calls, we would practice as a form of conditioning and say, Batman would be a play action because it's an action film, or Superman was a play action. So everybody knew, from that play call that it would be a play action, or bazooka, it was like a fake bubble, okay, or gum was bubble. And so it's rote memory, and then you could use that one word term that has an association with something else. But I think there's definitely value if you're going to do it, and if you're going to have the one word, the 2-word calls, you need to commit to it. That's what I think. You need to commit to it, and it's got to be part of what you do. If you're going to have a long words, then you got to have them on a wristband, and then everybody's got to know what they're doing. So I know did I answer your question on that?
Well,
Paul?
it just seems to me like there's I don't know how, like, with all the when you get to the line of scrimmage, there's the shift, there's the motion, and then there's the rewind motion, or I don't know what you guys call it.
Yeah.
But is it a rewind motion
or like an orbit motion,
yeah.
or yo-yo
yo-yo.
motion?
And then, how do you call? Is all that predetermined by one word?
That doesn't mean nothing. They're just seeing what the defense does to it. That's
Yeah,
all.
but
Yeah, but how do you communicate it? That's what you're saying, Bert. Yeah.
It
just
like I'll give you one. I have to sit on the sideline a lot, and I hear a coach, defense coach yelling. He's a DB coach yelling "hombre," thinking that people don't know that means man in San Diego, in Spanish or whatever. And you're
That's
like,
awesome.
I'm like, you think that's like code right now? You're yelling "hombre" across the field. Oh, that's not man. No, we don't know what that is.
What if I yelled out Picasso and I'm on offense?
What would that be? I don't know.
Draw.
Oh, all right.
Rembrandt.
See?
Rembrandt.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to pick that up that night.
But like,
I might pick it up later, but
absolutely.
hombre, it's like, what, really?
Right. Cat coverage, man. Just start
Yeah.
saying cat. Hey, you got that cat, I got that cat.
Yeah.
Just start naming some different cats. No, I think Paul I'm good buddies with Phil Longo, the offensive coordinator at North Carolina. And Phil believes in the air raid offense, and he believes in no huddle. And that's who he is. That's what he believes in. That's what they practice. And he signals the plays along with other people. Sometimes he's the dummy signaler, but that's how they practice and what they do. And so over time, if you believe in what you do and you're able to communicate it, then the kids will get it. But to make that call. So I've been in so many dang systems. I'm not calling the offense now. I don't want to give any play calls from Carlsbad or any of these other programs that I have. But if I were to make bombers would be a 2x2 set, and if I did Y jump, then I'm in 2x2. The back is going to be lined up, whatever side is going to be based off a play call. So if I say bombers, Pittsburgh, bombers jump, Pittsburgh rope. So that was a Southwestern College call with Ed Carberry. It'd be 2x2. The back would be lined up on the left. Okay, the receiver on the right is going to do a jump motion. He's going to make it look like short motion, and then as soon as he gets a yard from the tackle, he's going to accelerate over the top of the quarterback. And then you got a zone read element. You're reading the dive key on the backside, and if the dive key crashes down, the quarterback's going to pull it and then play 2-on-1 basketball fast break against the force player. And that's how we taught that.
What's Pittsburgh? How's Pittsburgh fit in there?
Pittsburgh would be the play call. I said Pittsburgh for you.
Thank you.
Obviously,
I was hoping.
I love my Yinzers, man.
I love this game. I wasn't very good at it, but I love. If my life had gone the way I wanted to, we'd be in the other position. You'd be interviewing me. You brought
so much joy, man. You brought so much joy to people's lives.
Only because I couldn't play it or coach it. But I love the X and, when I'm doodling plays all the time.
Oh, goodness, stop.
Let's do it, man. I got this whiteboard. I do Zoom meetings. I've got quarterbacks in Arizona, Hawaii, Washington. We do Zoom meetings.
Okay, well,
I get on the board.
Hey, can you switch your camera around and can you draw something up for us real quick as we wrap this up?
Do you need me to switch my camera around, or can you see it well enough?
Well, yeah, we can just move it so we can put the whiteboard in front of where you are.
Yep. Hold on 1 second.
Oh, this is great.
Don't take my picture down. Yeah, it's behind my block.
That's my dude right there, Bert. Okay, so here's my favorite play. When I was at Southeast Missouri State, we my first 2 years there, we were struggling, and we got a new AD, and we knew if that because that guy was from the Southeast, and he'd been at Georgia, and so the expectations were super high, right, from that guy. Right. We got to get going.
Yeah. So we got a couple minutes here.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. Let me. Sorry, Bert.
Yeah, Bert's got to go.
Oh my!
Bert's got to go.
That's just.
That's why I get a color printer, so I can waste ink and money on that, so I can do stuff like that. So if I go, I can do this out of any formation, right? But let's just keep it to this formation. So if I go bombers, that's 2x2, Paul.
So 2 wide receivers on each side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a bomber set.
Okay.
I can hold it up there. And if I go 51 scat, I've called it Stanford, I've called it whatever, or spot. Okay, we've got this route here, a corner route, that's going to go up to 10 to 12 yards, depending on, if he needs to step on the safety's toes a little bit more. We got our spot route that's going to attack the toes of the walkout defender. So we're going to look at his pre-snap toes, and we're going to try to replace and sit it down. If he squeezes us, then we're going to punch and pivot towards the sideline, right? We're going to move towards the sideline. If he buzzes the flat, then we're going to just sit and stay open, right? Okay, and then the back is going to either run a swing or a flat, depending on how I want to call it. Let's just say we're doing a swing there. Okay, let me go ahead and erase that. And then and then on this other side, we're going to have the same route that we had right there on the spot route, attack the toes of the walkout defender. Okay, punch or pivot or stay, and then we could do a flat route there. So this is my 2 high side. Here, if I see 2 high, I access the left side. If I see 1 high, I'm going to access the right side. Okay, it's just a numbers game, and then there's some. Are you guys gone?
No, we're here.
No, it's just a numbers game, and I taught my quarterbacks that if they overloaded one side, the 1 high, 2 high rule wasn't really in effect, right? So there's some nuance there. And the quarterback, when we first installed this play, the quarterback was always taught never pass up the open spot route, because the spot route has the ability to sit, punch and pivot out, or continue to work inside. And then we would go spot to flat. When I felt that they were comfortable enough to make that read in their sleep, then we allow them to access the corner route. Good against man-to-man, good against those types of situations where it's man, then you go corner to spot to swing. If it's 1 high safety, then we just go spot to flat route, okay? And then we've even had instances where if it was 1 high and they covered this down well, this guy would continue to work inside, then I could swipe back and find him, okay? The other reason I really love this play is you can do it out of a bunch, you could do it out of a heavy set, you could do it out of, a lot of different things. And then if they start playing to this and they know that you like this, then you can tag a basic route on this or a post route if they start taking away the underneath routes. So really felt like this is a good foundational piece. And if you watch college football or pro football, people are running this concept. I think it's a timeless concept because defenses are catching up. There's a bunch of different component calls that a defensive coordinator can make based off of what you do. And shoot, they want to try to stop the offense. So we got to try to.
I got a better one. You want to hear the complexities of a defensive end?
Let's go.
Basically, the tackle can only do 3 things. Block down, you got to close. Pass set, you got to pass rush, or you'll get reached, either one.
Yeah.
I mean, those are really in a 4-3 the only 3 things. And you could tell 80% from down distance and stance.
100%.
Watching that, I'm like, I couldn't sit for 10 years and do all that stuff. That's like the advanced algebra.
Well, some people explain it way simpler, right? I mean, I get a little fired up.
I want to buy you a beer sometime when our schedules are both insane right now, but this kind of stuff, I love. Man,
I like my simple version. That's why woodshop was my class. There's a reason.
Well, I think every staff. If you got a, like I had Keith Williams from the Ravens out here working at camp with us in May, and he told me, he's like, I want these routes. And then I came back and started adding routes. Like, dang, quarterback guys can't just keep it simple. It's the truth, and I know it.
Doug, just as we wrap this up, tell people where they can find you.
So I'm on social, Brady Performance Football on Instagram. On Twitter, it's @Coach Doug Brady. On TikTok, yes, I do have a TikTok. My stepdaughter loves. In fact, I do. DBrady12. And then I've got a YouTube channel that I do some work on. Again, it's like trying not to have too much spread out. And then BradyPerformance.com. You could find me on those platforms. So we'll have a lot of camps that we're going to be doing this next off season. We want to try to collaborate with coaches and help out any way we can. So, and we have a group session this Sunday. for quarterbacks. Receivers are free. Quarterbacks 5th to 8th grade, and then high school age. We'll have 2 different sessions.
Thank you so much for your time. We have to get out of here for a news break, so it went longer than we anticipated, but we could go another 2 hours. Doug, have a great day, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Bert.
Thank you. Hang up that picture when you're done.
Yes, this
I got
podcast
you,
is
Doug.
now concluded. Please turn off the machines.